Lately, I've been stressed a lot. And I'm stressed a lot. And I don't know how to fix being stressed. And I don't think there is a way. I mean, don't get me wrong, you won't be stressed eventually, but it's not something that's easy to force because it's often something more complicated or complex than just fixing it. And I think often if I just didn't constantly think about how stressed out I am, I would probably be a lot less stressed out, which is ironic in many senses, but that's beyond the point. This video is about Darkest Dungeon. Well, it's not about just Darkest Dungeon, but it's about a mechanic in Darkest Dungeon. It's about the stress mechanic in Darkest Dungeon. Anybody who knows what Darkest Dungeon is will immediately understand what I mean by saying that this mechanic is important. Maybe not in the same way that I find it important, but by all means, they will probably find it important. It is a perfect blend of issuing what it actually feels like to build up stress throughout encounter over encounter feeling horrified. And whereas I am not crawling through dungeons fighting horrid, nightmarish, occultish pig monsters, I still completely understand what they mean when they say you're stressed. It ticks up and ticks up and ticks up until eventually reaching that 100, and then you crash. But there's something else. There's something else besides breaking, and I want to talk about that. It's about virtue.
Gathered close is violet.
To give a better understanding, I'm going to explain a little bit more about Darkest Dungeon, for those who may not know about it. Darkest Dungeon is a roguelike RPG game that you can find on Steam for most of the time roughly around $15, where you can essentially build a party of about 4 different people, or maybe less than that if you're crazy, and then send them through different horrific dungeons. This is where stuff like the stress mechanic is very, very powerful because it plays very well with the gothic and eldritch aesthetic that the game likes to go with. Now, how you gain stress could be anywhere from interacting with different curios while going through dungeons, being attacked, whether they be severe or more so built to make stress, or, honestly, just walking in the dark. Okay, so with that out of the way, virtue checks are caused by a percentage chance within a given character whenever your stress meter reaches 100, where it's about a 67% chance that your character will freak the fuck out and become horrible in some way to the rest of your team and hinder your team. There is a low percentage chance that the opposite will occur. Amongst everything, as stressful as it is, you push on. A moment of clarity within everything terrifying, within everything horrible, you push on. And it's just a mechanic. But somehow, something like this silly little meter based on numbers and percentages and really, really good graphical art, like goddamn, it's fucking awesome. There is something that has stuck with me in a way I find a hard time even explaining correctly. Darkest Dungeon's virtue mechanic has allowed me in my own life to understand that I have 2 choices when I get so stressed. And of course, our lives are complicated. There are millions of choices we can make at any given moment. But what I mean is that if you boil them down to their simplest forms, there are two things. There's crashing, cracking, and breaking, or there's putting yourself together. Amidst everything stressful and horrible, riding up inside of you, there is something still there that can put yourself back together. There is something in you where even though everything is so fucking bad right now, you can still make it through. Amongst everything encroaching and tearing you to shreds, there is still light. And it comes from you. All of that light, all of that ability to push onward comes from you. Nothing causes it. There's no necessary thing that's going to just tell you how to fix yourself and you'll move on, but something in you has built and exploded, and when that thing explodes, you're still here. And you keep going. And every time you get to keep going, you become better. And that's why I love that it buffs you. That's why I love that it gives you the ability to, even though everything seemed to be going wrong, you're saved. Not by something else, but by yourself. Stress is a horrible thing. It builds in us and builds in us until we destroy ourselves. And it's not an easy thing to portray well. And in frankest terms, Darkest Dungeon is still just a meter. If you boil it down to its pure code, it's just a numeric chance from every attack or encounter or moment. But it's played with its aesthetic so well that you can feel it. Every bad book you read, and every splash to the face by a tempting goblet. You stay up. You made it through everything. And sometimes you didn't. But because you know that you couldn't have, because you know that it was possible to have failed, because you know that you could have cracked, because you know that everything could have went so much worse than it did, because you know that you managed to make it throughout alive. There's something to that. There is something beautiful to that. We don't all make it out alive. We don't all get to say we pushed on and we had that moment of clarity. Sometimes we crack, and we crack for months. We crack for days. We can't fix ourselves. We find simple ways to appease it. But sometimes, as long as we're still here, we glow. Because we gave ourselves long enough time to. And we may dim again, but we will glow again. Every time, every terrible moment, we get a chance to. And so, when I sit stressed to hell because I don't feel like I can do what I want to become the things I wish, I know that so long as I am still here, and so long as I let myself, so long as I can muster it in myself, I get that chance. So thank you, Darkest Dungeon. And whoever made that dumb mechanic to help your aesthetic. Sometimes small things can mean the world to you, even if they seem like they're small. And I feel stupid for caring this much about a game mechanic, but it's fine to feel stupid sometimes. So once again, thank you. And thank you for watching.